מודה אני לפניך מלך חי וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך מודה אני לפניך מלך חי וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך
Grateful am I
grateful
as I stand
as I stand before
before you, living
you,
spirit of the world.
living spirit of the world, the soul you gave
Your great faith in me.
your great faith in me. May I be grateful, may I be good.
Take a moment to put on our tallis. Anybody brought one and wants to put it on, now is the time. Now is a great time. So you may have the blessing written on the atara, or you may just repeat after me. This makes a great sunshade. Also makes for a really good ancient Jewish embrace that we get to wear as we daven for the rest of today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. Shana Tova. Good morning. Good Shabbos. Hello. It's good to be with you again. I hope you slept well. I hope you have some good coffee or whatever it is that you're bringing to this morning's davening to bring in the new year and to sing and pray and process together in community. Last night, about 15 minutes before our service started, we learned that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. And, I was holding back tears as our staff quickly had a chat. Gosh, what should we do? What can we do? And the answer is nothing. We can pay honor and pay tribute to this towering figure of gender equality and equal rights, this powerful Jewish woman on whose shoulders I stand as a rabbi. I am personally devastated by this loss and nervous about what this may mean for justice in our country moving forward at a time when Justice seems elusive at worst, absent at worst, and precarious at best for so many in our country. RBG, may your memory be a blessing. We have to make it a blessing. Jews are no strangers to going to bed at night and waking up in the morning in the midst of uncertainty and existential fear, feeling these feelings. So Judaism has many structures to hold us, spiritual practices that function as a kind of scaffolding to hold us up, keep us in life, and help us make it to the next moment. Last night, I talked about one of those structures, the Amidah, this practice of 3 times a day saying what amount to like aspirational prayers for the world, prayers for yourself, for wisdom, for forgiveness, for healing, but also prayers for the country, that you should have a wise government and a just government and an honest government full of integrity and truth. And before we get to the Amidah in any service, we start with gratitude. This is probably our most transformational, powerful, important, personal, beginning, opening, spiritual practice to begin every day. So, Modeh ani, moda ani lefanecha. Here I am. Here we are. Another day in this world, breathing. So I want to invite you to begin with a few breaths. And just to notice where there's stress or tension in your body, even at this hour of the morning. And to just breathe love into it. To just breathe into it. Shechazarta binishmati, you gave me back the soul that's in my body, bechemla, with compassion. Rabba emunatecha, great is your faith in me. Great is your faith in me. So to be playful, to be grateful, to be joyful in the midst of times like these is an act of necessary resistance to darkness. I think of the image of Ruth Bader Ginsburg pounding weights in the gym on Capitol Hill, doing squats at age 85, building the necessary muscle to keep her mind and body healthy. Gratitude is a muscle that we build, and the more that we use it, the stronger it becomes. The more we are able to find and name the good stuff. And we need it. Oh boy, do we need the good stuff in order to get us through times like these. And so I want to invite you this morning, in the midst of everything, to share what you're feeling grateful for. What, as you breathe, you can exhale and say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, someone. Thank you, me, for whatever it is. I am grateful. I am grateful for so many of the ingredients that went into creating the service we're all going to be part of this morning. I'm grateful for my colleagues and teachers for visiting us today from all over the country, gracing us with their wisdom. So like Joey Weissenberg and Sarah Hurwitz this morning, Shir Yaakov last night. I'm grateful for the davening team that came together to make all of this beautiful music, filling all of your living rooms, and earbuds, lifting all of us up. I'm grateful for Mishkan's staff, just doing an incredible job, holding all of the pieces together. We're going to build a prayer this morning. We're going to go A to Z. Ashrei is an acrostic in Hebrew from Aleph to Taf. This is how we're going to organize our gratitude this morning. So, if you've already introduced yourself in the chat, said where you're from, how you're doing. So now that you're warmed up, we're gonna just share what we are grateful for this morning in the midst of everything, as this powerful and important act of joy, act of resistance, act of strength. and a necessary ingredient for a spiritual life. Ready? A. Go. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha Ashrei Ashrei
Hi friends at Mishkan in Chicago. So nice to be with you this time around. My name is Joey Weisenberg with Hadar's Rising Song Institute. And I'm just delighted that Nishmat Kol Chai gets to be a part of your davening this year. It's really one of my favorite melodies in the whole world and really favorite prayers in the whole Jewish tradition. Nishmat Kol Chai, the soul of all life, Tivarech et Shimcha, gives a blessing to the divine name, to you, to your divine name. And it's a melody that I've sung all over the world, and it's always something that brings everybody in the most beautiful way. And you know, it's the whole idea when we're singing this song is that we're not only hearing our own song, but we're really trying to hear the songs and the prayers and the brachas that are being sung by all of creation. And this is something that I learned from Rav Kook's four-part teaching about song which Chicago native R.E.A. Bernstein really helped me understand, where Rav Kook says, he says that there's 4 kinds of songs, and the first song is the song of the individual, the person, and the second song is the song that's sung by the community, by the tribe, and the third song is the song that's sung by all of humanity, and the fourth song is the song that's being sung by all of creation, by everything that breathes and even things that don't breathe, the rocks, the birds, the oceans, the trees, and that each of these parts of the world are singing. And it's not easy to hear the songs that are being sung by the frogs, and it's also not easy to hear the songs that are being sung in our own hearts. And I hope for you for this year that you're able to sing a song, and also to be able to listen to the songs that are being sung by all of creation. All of the brachas. On the high holidays, there's lots of brachas, because there's lots of times where it says Amen. But anyway, Nishmat Kol Chai, such a beautiful, beautiful prayer. So beautiful, in fact, that it says there's another poem, a piyut, that's sung on Shabbat called Menucha V'Simcha, and in the 4th stanza it says, you know what's really great about Shabbat? You get to sing Nishmat Kol Chai. And that goes for the holidays as well. It's the only other times that we get to sing Nishmat, for the most part. And so enjoy the song, and enjoy the davening. Enjoy finding your own heart, and enjoy allowing the davening and the prayer and the song to allow us to hear beyond ourselves this year. And thank you, Mishkan. Looking forward to singing with you in person down the line. Bye.
האל בתעצומות עוזך, הגדול בכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח, והנורא בנורותיך. המלך, ay, 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 היושב על כיסא רם ונישא. ברך הוא אתה אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. We can take a seat. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. אור עולם באוצר חיים, אורות מאופל אמר ויהי. You spoke and light emerged from darkness, light precious to life, life that is eternal. And we pick up with the blessing for light, bottom of 127. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
As we say the paragraph before the Shema, the tradition is to gather the fourth tzitzit from the corners of our talit and say the words V'havi'enu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz. Bring us together in peace from the four corners of the world. Right after that, we'll say the Shema, a moment where we're trying to be so focused on one moment, so focused inward, that we actually cover our eyes. So why would we want to talk about our diversity right before we try to turn inwards? In classic Jewish fashion, I'd like to answer you with a story. The great Hasidic master, the Baal Shem Tov, used to pray for many hours every day. And his disciples, his students, had the tradition that they would stay and accompany him until he finished his prayers, even though they would be long done praying. So one day, the Baal Shem Tov is praying, and his prayers are dragging on, and the students start to get tired. So they start to think to themselves, maybe I can sneak home. I'll get a little bite to eat. I'll take a little rest. I'll be back long before he finishes praying. He'll never know I left. So one by one, they sneak off. They return a little while later, expecting to find the Baal Shem Tov still deeply engrossed in his prayer. And instead, they find him sitting on a bench in the synagogue. So they ask him, Rabbi, why did you finish praying so early today? And he said, my students, I'd like to answer you with a story. See, this is a very Jewish thing to do. So the Baal Shem Tov tells them a story. A group was once journeying through the forest when the leader saw a beautiful bird at the top of a tree. Come, he said to his fellows, I would like to capture that bird so that we can all look upon her beauty. But how? Asked the others. That tree is so tall, and we are too short to climb it. Here, said the leader, each one of us will stand on each other's shoulders, creating a human ladder, and I will climb to the top, and I will get this bird so that we can admire her beauty. So they each stood on top of each other, and the leader climbed up to the top of the ladder. And just as he stretched out his fingers towards that bird, the people on the bottom of this human ladder got tired. They went away, and the leader tumbled to the ground without the bird. We are like those people, creating a human ladder. Of course, we are not trying to lift up just one person. But the Baal Shem Tov's story teaches us that it truly takes a community to reach great spiritual heights. We're all here to help build a ladder for each other, to benefit from that communal strength and direction and dedication. And lest we forget that, just moments before we close our eyes to say the Shema, we're reminded of how beautiful it is to be in community with each other. That each of us is called to listen to a different individual voice today, but that we are able to enter that work because we know we have each other. There's this Jewish mystical idea that what we do in our earthly lives affects the heavenly realm, that each of our actions, even if we can't see them, has a profound effect. So I want to thank you for showing up today. Wherever you're from, whatever brings you to this community, thank you for helping us fulfill the words of this prayer and allowing us to come together in peace. We might not be able to see each other, but I want to invite you to imagine as you gather your tzitzit around you, as you gather your talit around you. If you're not wearing a talit, maybe you just gather your arms around you and give yourself a hug. Take this moment to imagine yourself enveloped in the loving embrace of this entire community and all the communities around the world who have gathered today to celebrate and to welcome a new year.
I invite you to gather the four corners of your tzitzit around you. As we connect with the most powerful and important of all of the metaphors for what God is, who God is, the experience that God is, which is ahava rabbah, great, big, abundant, powerful love. So go ahead and just chant after me. First two words of this blessing. Ahava, ahava, ahava rabbah. Turn to the blessing on 129. Baruch atah Havaya Habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava Habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על אלוהיך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך ביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשופך ובחומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
This retreat had all the makings of a bad idea. No one I knew had ever heard of it, and it had a name, Awakening the Divine, that struck me as ridiculous and made me think this probably wasn't the kind of holiday vacation I would be able to discuss with my White House coworkers around the office water cooler. But unable to think of anything better to do over the December holiday in 2014, I found myself sitting on a cushion on the floor of a retreat center in the woods. Hour after hour, I watched my mind jump from one anxious thought to another. Despite the instructions from the teachers to view our thoughts with compassion and non-judgmental awareness, I couldn't help but judge myself to be completely pathetic. I had all the trappings of a wonderful life, but every so often, generally in the face of big life decisions, I would be subsumed with anxiety, unable to enjoy any of my abundant blessings. This was definitely one of those times. By the third night of the retreat, I was exhausted, frustrated, and thoroughly sick of myself. And when one of the teachers announced that we'd be doing a practice called Hit Bodedut, which had been developed about 200 years ago by a Hasidic rabbi and involves going out into nature alone and talking to God, my first thought was something like, "Are you kidding me?" The rules of Hit Bodedut, she informed us, are as follows. Number 1, go somewhere secluded outdoors where no one else can hear you. 2, speak out loud to God, not in your head, but in an audible voice for an allotted period of time. 3, speak without pauses. If you run out of things to say, you can say, "I've run out of things to say," over and over again. But whatever you do, keep talking. Despite its Jewish roots, this Hit Bodedut practice sounded like New Age nonsense to me. But I am an inveterate rule follower, and when the bell rang to signal that the exercise had begun, I trekked up to a spot in the woods overlooking the retreat center, cleared my throat, and started talking. Hi God, so yeah, I don't really believe in you. I guess you do good work. The nature out here is nice. Except again, I don't think there's a you there, so it's not really clear who I'm talking to right now. Pacing back and forth, I found myself growing increasingly agitated. Why was I even at this retreat? Why was I still losing hours of my life to the same senseless anxiety that had driven me to pace the floor of my college dorm room just like this 2 decades ago? This is so stupid. What is the point of this? I don't want to be out here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. And suddenly I was crying. I don't know, okay? I just don't know. And that was all I could say over and over again. I don't know. What didn't I know? To this day, I'm not sure. But I just kept saying it until I finally blurted out, I don't know, but I cannot do this alone. I just can't. I can't do this alone. And with that, I don't know, but I cannot do this alone, like something from a depressed greeting card writer or a middle school health class video, I heard the bell calling us back to the retreat. So next up in the service is the silent Amidah, when you'll have some time for personal prayer and reflection. And what you do with this time is up for you. But one possibility is for you to try some form of hitbodedut, the spiritually brave practice of talking out loud to God. Now, I'm guessing that like me, most of you don't have easy access to secluded woods right now, and that's okay. Anywhere private where you can be heard totally works. You can do this in a quiet corner of your home, maybe wrapping your tallis around you for additional privacy. And you can speak softly, even in a whisper. Or you can head outside, put in some earbuds, and talk to God while you're walking. Everyone will just assume you're on the phone. At a yeshiva I did last summer in New York City, students actually did this while walking through Central Park. And when you're wearing a mask, no one can see your lips moving anyway, so you might not even need the earbuds. However you do it, just remember to speak out loud without stopping. If you run out of things to say, just say, I've run out of things to say, run out of things to say. If you don't believe in God, you could say something like, I absolutely do not believe in you, so I guess I'm just talking to empty air. But if I did believe in you, well, and then you can go from there. If you're not sure where to start, just say something true. That's always a good way to begin, by saying something true. And then just keep going. Keep pushing through any awkwardness or hesitation you might feel. You never know what you might end up saying. Shana Tova.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor B'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chazdei Avot V'Imahot, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מיסוד חכמים ונבונים ומלמדת מבינים, הבטחה פי ותפילה ותחנונים, לחלות ולחנן פני מלך מלא רחמים, אדוני האדונים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למען אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מוריד אתה מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, לחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אמן.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. קדוש, קדוש, אדוני במקומו, ברוך כבוד
Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Baruch atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh. Amen. And we'll turn to 152. Sim shalom tova uveracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'kol kol Yisrael. Amecha v'keinu avinu kulanu ke'echad, kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha, ki be'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Torah chaim ve'ahavat chesed u'tzedakah u'berachah ve'rachamim ve'chaim ve'shalom ve'chaim ve'shalom ve'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. אנחנו בכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. איי 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 איי
We're about to begin the Torah service. Like every other part of this service for this high holidays, it'll be a little bit different from the way we would be celebrating this if we were all together at the Vic. And
there are some things that are going to be the same. We're going to take the Torahs out of the ark. We're going to hug them. We're going to love them. We're going to dance in the streets with them. We're going to celebrate with Torah. Jews over the ages have gone to great, great lengths to be able to read and hear and, most importantly, study and internalize Torah. Torah is not just a book. It's not a scroll that has words written on it that we venerate like it's a god. You might think, the way that we celebrate it and hold it and look at it, that we're worshiping Torah. We're not worshiping Torah. We're worshiping God, the unity that flows throughout the universe, that connects all of us, and that inspires wisdom within us, and that has inspired the wisdom of our people, transmitted through the ages in the form of Torah. Not limited to, but in this moment, that's sort of the embodiment that we hold. And so I want to invite you to, sort of reach out in the way that we might in a service, all in person, and get close with your finger to the computer screen. Mwah! And reach out as the Torah is passing and get a little kiss, get a little bit closer. The whole idea is that this is something that we as a people love and consider to be an expression of love from the divine. And the closer we get to it, even as we socially distance, as we dance and we sing, the closer we get, the more inspired and the more hopeful and the stronger we become. So let's get this Torah service started.
Kuma Adonai V'yafutzu oivecha V'yanusu misanecha mipanecha Ki mitzion te'etze Torah Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim ay 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 Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato ay 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 la 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 ay ay Adonai El Rachum V'Chanun Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet Notzer Chesed Le'alafim Nosei Avon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Naker Havaya El Rachum V'Chanun Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet Notzer Chesed Le'alafim Nosei Avon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Naker Havaya El Rachum V'Chanun Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet Notzer Chesed Le'alafim Nosei Avon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Naker Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti uneromem Hashemo yachdav lecha Adonai hagdula v'hagvura v'hatifer v'hanetzach v'hahod tivor b'shamayim ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לבוא לראש רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לחדור רגליו קדושים רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקדוש Adonai ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
Yay, Torah! Torah! Yay, Torah!
You might think that on Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of the world, we'd want to read the section of the Torah about the creation of the world. But no, we're going to read a couple of stories about the first Jews, their messy, complicated, sometimes joyful, sometimes despairing lives. For me, it's a reminder that the story of the world is the story of the people who fill it. How we treat the world itself, but also how we treat each other, what we do with our time here. So for each of the aliyot, we've invited a different group of people who've had a major year in one way or another. You will see, hear, and hopefully share our pride and joy in honoring people who've celebrated life milestones, who volunteered their time for this Mishkan community or for building a better world, and so many more. But of course, these faces on the screen are not the only people who fall into these categories. So if, as we call the Aliyah, you think to yourself, hey, that's me too, stand up, say the blessing. Maybe you even share in the chat with us who you are and why you're joining for that Aliyah. For this first Aliyah, we read about the birth of Isaac. So we invite anyone who celebrated a major milestone this year. Maybe you had a baby too. Maybe you got married or graduated from school. Maybe you actually left a toxic relationship. You're celebrating a year or a month or a week sober. Maybe you managed not to kill your succulents. If it's a celebration in your life, we want to celebrate it with you. Yamdu anyone who deserves a hearty mazel tov, le'aliyah harishona.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Varunai pakadat sarah kasher amar vayas Adonai l'sarah kasher diber vatar vatelet sarah l'Abraham ben lizkunav lamoed asher diber oto Elohim vayikra Avraham et shem beno hanoalo asher dalo sarah Yitzchak Vayamal Avraham et Yitzchak beno ben shmonat yamim kasher Tzivaoto Elohim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam ha'torah. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
For the second Aliyah, I want to call all of the people who leaned into the call for community during lockdown, and in particular, wanting to shout out the builders who led programs like Lunch and Learns and who made check-in phone calls to other builders during this time. You know, when the stay-at-home orders were put out there was this overwhelming feeling that people had, like, we want to reach out, we want to do something, we want to take care of each other. And 168 of you reached out and made phone calls, and those phone calls led to people buying groceries for each other and doing drop-offs and taking care of each other in really beautiful ways that we couldn't have even anticipated. So I want to say thank you to all of you. Some of your faces are going to be here saying this Aliyah. And also just put out there that if you want to be part of the community in this way, you know, be called upon in this way, the only way we know you're out there is if you're a builder, actually. You know, the only way we knew sort of who the community was people who had already stepped forward and said, I'm here, how can I help build this thing? So if you're feeling moved this year, like, now is the time in this moment of isolation to step in and join the community, I want to invite you that now is a great time, and we can't wait to embrace you in the warmth of this community and all that's made possible through the strength of all of the people here and love. So do all the builders who stepped forward and created light and love during these dark times. La'aliyah hashenit.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Avraham ben ma'at shana, v'hivaled lo, et Yitzchak beno. Vatomer Sarah tzchok, asali Elohim, kol hashomea Yitzchak li. Vatomer mi mileil Avraham, hini kavanim Sarah, ki aladati ven lizkunav. Vayigdal hayeled v'yagamal, vaya'as Avraham mishte gadol, v'yom higamel et Yitzchak. Vatera Sarah et ben Hagar hamitzrit, asher yalda la'Avraham mitzachek. Vatomer la'Avraham garesh ha'ama hazot v'et bena, Ki lo yirash ben ha'ama hazot im beni im Yitzchak. Vayera hadavar ma'od be'enei Avraham al odot beno. Vayomer Elohim el Avraham al yarei v'anecha al hanar v'al amatecha kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shama b'kola ki v'yitzchak yikare lecha zara.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
I want to call up a bunch of Mishkanites who are leaders that are entrusted to help steward this organization in every way, from finances to human resources to equity and safety and respect, helping people who are sick and who are having babies get food delivered to their houses, taking care of people on Shabbat, singing to us. We have a lot of teams of people who both sort of internally on the organizational side and externally on the program side, and sort of reaching and touching people in person and now virtually, are leading the way. And so we want to recognize you. You are on the finance team and the marketing team. You are organizers of the 40s plus community. You are on the Mensch advisory team. You are on the safety and respect and equity team. You might be on the davening team or a Shabbat squad captain, a Shabbat avodah captain. You might be on the support squad. And all of you have different and really important roles in taking care of people in the community, in a direct way or maybe a more indirect way that relies on the unique skills that you bring. In the Torah, Moses has a conversation with his father-in-law, Yitro, in which Yitro says to him, yo, you can't do all of this yourself. Like, you're a strong staff member, Moses, but like you need captains of tens and hundreds, and you need to delegate. And Moses does, and it's what allows him to thrive as a leader, and it's what allows the community to actually scale, to do what it does and do more of what it does and support more people in connecting with community, connecting with God, connecting with justice, connecting with ritual. That's what's happening here too. So if this is something that sounds interesting to you, if you want to take on some kind of a leadership or service role this year, so be in touch with Rachel Court, our executive director. And we'll also be giving you a spiritual pledge card at Yom Kippur that you can fill out. Let us know kind of what you're thinking, and we will follow up with you. In the meantime, I want to say to all of the leaders who are about to do this aliyah, bless you, thank you. We couldn't do this work of building the Mishkan without you. Ya'amdu, all of our team leaders, la'aliyah shlishit.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. וגם את בן המלגו ישימנו כי זרעו. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויקח להם בהמה מים, ויתן אל הגר שם השכמה ואת היבש ותלך ותקטע במדבר שבע, ויכו המים מן החמץ, ותשלך את הילד על השיחם. ותלך ותשב לה מנגד רחק, כמתח וקשת, כי אמרה הערב במות הילד, ותשב מנגד ותשע את קולה ותבך. וישמע אלוהים את קול הנער, ויקרא מלאך אלוהים אל הגר מן השמיים ויאמר למה להגר אל תראי כי ישמע אלוהים אל כהניו באשר הוא שם. קומי שאי את הנער והחזיקי את ידך בו כי לגוי גדול שמנו. ויפקח אלוהים את עיניה ותראה במים ותלך ותמלא את האמת מים ותשקט הנער. ויהי אלוהים את הנער ויגדול וישב במדבר ויהי וקשות. וישב במדבר פרן ותקח לו עמו אישה מארץ מצרים.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
The shortest prayer in the Torah is only 6 words long. Ana elna, rifa'na la. Please, God, heal her. When Moshe's sister Miriam falls ill, this is all he can manage. And every time we say these words, when we read the Torah portion, when we sing the line in Yedid Nefesh, I picture Moshe, his throat tight with emotion, pouring all of his heart into these words. I imagine many of us have been in the same boat when someone we love is not well. We feel powerless. We feel scared. We feel desperate for a good outcome, whatever that may be. I remember years ago when someone I loved fell ill, feeling a desperate urge to pray for their healing, and then feeling guilty because I hadn't really done that much praying recently. I wasn't fluent in Jewish prayer. I didn't know how to articulate my prayer for healing to God in a way that I felt would be heard. And then I learned about Moshe's prayer for his sister. Even Moshe, the person who has come closest to speaking directly to God face to face, when it came time to pray for healing, the most he could manage was a few words. Illness levels the playing field, at least emotionally. No matter where we stand politically, what we have done in our lives, how we live, all the ways that we have tried to care for ourselves and others, every single one of us knows someone who is hurting. Unless we think that we need to be the most pious or fluent in prayer, the tradition reminds us that, as the Talmud says, the gates of prayer are always open to the brokenhearted. So if you know someone in need of healing, I invite you to share their name in the chat and to speak it out loud wherever you are. If you're in need of healing, maybe you'll share your own name in the chat and ask this community to speak it out for you. Speaking these names is a form of prayer, as much as singing in honor of those we love. So join us in speaking the names, or singing the prayer, or just whispering. Heal them. Heal me. Heal us. Please, God, heal us all.
Mekor
Refuah Shlema. As we pray for physical and emotional healing of so many individuals in the community, we also recognize all of the ways that the world is in need of healing right now. So it's our honor to recognize some of our community members who've been deeply involved in helping to build a better and more just world. People who are championing our involvement with the fair tax and police accountability campaigns. People who've been supporting refugee families in the Chicago area, advocating for more just asylum policies. People who've been trying to make our community and others more environmentally sustainable and friendly. People who've been working to protect voter rights, increase voter participation, and so many more. You'll hear in a few minutes how Mishkan is evolving to meet the needs of the moment. And we're excited to share with you ways that you can get involved in the holy work of repairing the world with us. You don't need to have experience or know how to fix every problem. And you don't need to radically change your schedule to make time or space for justice work. As we'll read in this aliyah, sometimes justice is just healing a rift between two people. So if you've worked in ways big or small to bring us closer to the world you imagine, share it with us in the chat. It'll be so beautiful to see how many of us have been changing the world in so many places and so many ways, locally, nationally, and internationally. You are all justice champions, and this aliyah honors your important work. Please stand and chant this blessing with us. Ya'amdu, our justice warriors, la'aliyah haravi'it.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Vayhi ba'ed ahi vayomer Avimelech uvichosar tzavo Avraham lemor Elohim yimecha b'chol asher ata oseh ve'ata ishav aliv Elohim heina tishkor li onini onechti kach chesed asher asiti yimecha taseh imadi v'ima'aret asher garta ba Vayomer Avraham Anochi Yishavea Ve'ochiach Avraham et Avimelech Alodot Be'er Amayim Asher Gazelu Avdei Avimelech Vayomer Avimelech Lo Yadati Mi Asa Tadavar Hazeh Ve'gam Ata Lo Higata Li Ve'gam Anochi Lo Shamati Bilti Hayom Vayikach Avraham Tzon Uvakar Vayiten Avimelech Yichritu Shnehem Brit
Vayatzev Avraham et Sheva kivsot hatzon levadhen. Vayomer Avimelech el Avraham mahena Sheva kvasot ha'eleh asher hitzavta levadana. Vayomer ki et Sheva kvasot tikach miadi. Ba'avur tehye li leda, ki chafarti et ha'va'er hazot. Al kain kara, lamakom hahu be'er shava, ki sham nishba'u shnehem. V'yichretu v'rit bi'ver shava, v'yakom Avimelech, u'fichol sar tzava'o, Vayeshivu el eretz plishtim, vayita eshel biver shava, vayikra sham b'shem Adonai el olam, vayagor Avraham be'eretz plishtim, yamim rabim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
My name is Zoharia Jissen, and my family and I have been a part of the Mishkan community for the last 2 years. Since the beginning of 2020, I have been working with Mishkan to start the process of achieving the Hazon Sustainability Seal. The world that I want to live in is one that is equitable and safe for everyone. Unfortunately, the climate crisis puts that safety in danger. It encompasses every aspect of human life, and the enormity of this problem can be hard to face, which is why we must start small in our communities. By doing so, like with the Hazon Seal, we can not only strengthen our own community, but show other communities that such work can and is being done. The climate crisis is a product of racism and white supremacy. Because of this, environmental racism and environmental justice go hand in hand. Focusing on creating a healthy world for all, not most, is essential in my work. Therefore, I hope to add an environmental justice component to Mishkan's work with Hazon, potentially working with BIPOC-led green organizations and changing the face of the environmental movement to be more inclusive.
Hi, my name is Emily Rapport, and I have been a builder at Mishkan since 2017. When I imagine the world I want to live in, I think about this beautiful, diverse city of Chicago, and I imagine a place where my Black and brown neighbors can enjoy public space and move about the city without fear of being brutalized by the police. I think about a city where young Black folks like Laquan McDonald are not killed by the CBD and get to enjoy all the milestones of adulthood that I get to experience. That's the city that I want to live in, and I work towards it by calling and emailing my alderman to let him know that I want to see the creation of a civilian oversight body for the police, which would signal a transformational shift of power from CPD and the mayor to the people. Civilian oversight is just one part of a larger story, so I'm also making an effort to learn about the deep relationship between policing, slavery, and systemic racism, and to learn from the community leaders who see a path towards a more just and equitable vision of what public safety could look like in our community.
Shana Tova. My name is Joe Grant. I'm a builder and a member of the organizing team here at Mishkan and a leader at One Northside. I organize because I want to live in a society that values human connection over profiting from human misery. I want to live in a true multiracial democracy where government is a tool for collective decision-making about how to best meet all of our needs, not a tool for transferring wealth from the working class to the already very wealthy. There are times when this world seems very far away, but this November we have the chance to bring this world a little bit closer to reality. The Fair Tax Amendment would allow Illinois to tax higher incomes at higher rates and lower incomes at lower rates. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make our tax system more fair and to raise revenue to fund vital public services like public education, healthcare, and housing. My prayer for this new year is that all of you listening who are eligible to vote in Illinois will join me and Mishkan and One Northside and our allies across the state to vote yes on fair tax. Thank you, and Shana Tova.
As you just heard, we have some amazing people doing absolutely incredible work to make this world a better place. And we know that there are so many of you who want to get involved. Every year, justice is the number one thing that Mishkanites list as something they want to be doing with us. So whether you have an hour a week, or an hour a month, or an hour every 3 or 6 months to give, we are glad you're here, and we want you to get involved. It doesn't matter what you know, where your background is, where you come from, you have a place in making this world a better place, and we hope that you'll do it with us here at Mishkan. We believe in creating Jewish lives that are purposeful, connected, and inspired, and we know that doing justice work together is a way to achieve that. So fill out that spiritual pledge form and let us know what kind of issues you care about, what kind of time you have to give, and what you want to be doing to help create a better world in the coming year. Don't see your issue listed there? Send me an email. I'd love to talk about how to get you involved in this project because as you've just seen, it's a great group of people and we're really truly building a better world.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe.
Our Haftarah today teaches us everything we need to know about prayer. And I mean how to pray. It's the story of Hannah. And it's important to note that the story of Hannah is in the beginning of the book of Samuel. And Samuel, in our tradition, is a prophet. And his life occurred during a period of great transition. There had been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of destruction, a lot of infighting among the tribes of ancient Israel. And people were wondering, what do we need to bring about some kind of order, some kind of leadership, a new way? And Samuel's story starts with the story of his mother, Hannah, and the deep yearning that she felt when she was calling him into this world. And at the time, the only way that people connected with the divine was through an intermediary. People would go to the temple and bring some kind of animal to offer as a sacrifice that the priest would then take and offer. We're offering this sacrifice as a request on behalf of this person to give thanks or to express awe. But Hannah went to the temple one day without a sacrifice. And instead, she just wept. And she wept and wept on the steps of the temple and mumbled to herself. And no one had ever done anything like this before. And so the priest who was there walked up to her and was like, "Yo, lady, are you drunk?" And she looked back at him with as much confusion as he had looked at her. And she said, "No, are you kidding? Don't you see what's going on here? I am pouring out my heart to the one." And in that moment, the priest understood, even though he'd never seen it before. No one had ever connected with the divine in this way. No one had ever prayed before. And he stepped away to give her space
because he understood that this was something really significant. And she had given birth not only to a prophet, but to this way of convening that all of us can do with the divine in any moment. And I want to say this right now because on the high holidays, there's a lot of prayer and words that some of us may or may not know. But the tradition of prayer is actually built around what Hannah did that day on the temple, which was just to weep, to express authentically what was in her heart. And so if you're able to do that right now, you are able to pray. We're going to sing a line from this Haftarah, from Hannah's prayer. And the words are, Vehi marat nafesh. And in the bitterness of her heart, in her deep mourning on a soul level, Vatit palel al havaya, she prayed to the one. Uvacho tivke, weeping and weeping all the while. And I want to give honor to a sister from our extended community, Batya Levine, who had a moment like Hannah where she found herself weeping and just praying from the depth of her soul. And this nigun came through her at that time. And we're going to sing it with the words of Hannah's prayer. Vehi marat nafesh v'titzpalel al havaya. Ay, 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 uvacho tivkeyo. Vehi marat nafesh v'titzpalel al havaya. Ay, 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 uvacho tivkeyo. Nafesh v'titzpalel al havaya. Ay, ay, uvacho tivkeyo. Vehi marat nafesh v'titzpalel al havaya. Ay, 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 uvacho tivkeyo.
In the winter of 2018, I was sitting with my weekly spirituality and recovery group at the Exodus Transitional Community, a center for people recently released from prison. I was their chaplain, and I was tasked with caring for their spiritual needs after years or even decades behind bars. They were, on the whole, a tremendously hopeful group. Survivors of some of the worst things that society has to offer, they mostly all agreed that their lives could change and would change for the better. They believed in themselves and the spiritual power of their hope. On that particular cold Wednesday morning, I had asked the group to share something they had done recently that they were proud of. Many of the people in the group shared stories about reconnecting with family after years incarcerated or of getting their first job on the books of their entire life. But one person in the group, who I'll call Dennis, seemed to really struggle with the question. I don't know. I guess I haven't done much to be proud of, he said. That's why I'm here, isn't it? I ruined a bunch of lives, and then I spent a bunch of years behind bars, letting the system ruin my life. Okay, let's look at your life now. Is there anything you're doing that might bring about positive change in your life? Come on, lady, I sold drugs. I was incarcerated. I pushed people to get addicted. How do you make that better? A bunch of the people I sold to were dead or in prison with me. But now I go out on 125th Street to my old corner and I give out sandwiches. Can't take back all the problems I caused those guys by pushing them to buy my supply, but I go up to them and I offer them a free sandwich. I guess I'm proud of that. Dennis was sitting in the depths of the valley of despair, seeing all the destruction around him, all the destruction that he had caused. And he was finding it hard to see change. Yet what Dennis shared, that one little way he had found to change his own life, gave everyone in that room a jolt of energy. One moment, one little gesture or action can ignite hope that transformation is possible. Take the story of Hagar from our Torah reading from today. Sarah demands that Abraham expel Hagar and her young son Ishmael, and Abraham complies. Hagar is given a skin of water and some bread and sent out into the desert. When that water runs out, Hagar puts Ishmael under a bush and walks away to weep, unable to watch her son die of thirst. But Ishmael does not die of thirst. Hagar saves him. We read that, then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water, and she gave the boy to drink. One small action, Hagar's eyes were opened, and history is forever changed. So here's the $1 million question. Was the well there all along and Hagar just couldn't see it? Or did that well appear precisely because she needed it? Either one is possible. The Torah doesn't tell us, and the traditional commentators are split. But honestly, I don't think it matters right now whether the well was there all along or not. The important point is that when Hagar was despairing, she could not see the well. And then something happened that allowed her to see a better future. There was a triumph of hope. Hope can be the things that were always there, but our eyes weren't open to see. Or hope could be things that come into our lives precisely because we need them when we need them, like a light shining in the dark. If the latter sounds like a miracle, maybe it is. But for those of you who didn't watch the movie The Prince of Egypt as your second Seder this year, as my fiance Zach and I did, let me remind you of the lyrics of its most popular song. There can be miracles when you believe, though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. What we learn from Dennis and from Hagar is that we need to hold on to hope. We need to believe in change. We need to believe in miracles. And we're going to be held accountable to our belief. The Talmud teaches that on the ultimate Yom Hadin, the final judgment day when our lives end, we will be asked to reckon with all sorts of things in our lives. Were we honest in business? Were we committed to creating strong relationships with people? Were we dedicated to learning and wisdom? And, in a very different tune, were we on the lookout for salvation? Tzipita leYeshua. Did you keep watch for redemption? Did we hope that the world would change for the better? Rashi tries to claim that this is an eventual hope, an eventual messianic era beyond our lifetimes. But Rav Nisim of Gerona, known as the Ran, says no. When the heavenly court asks you if you lived a life infused with a hope for redemption, it means literally, did you spend every day with the expectation that the world could and would drastically change for the better. It's actually heretical not to hold this belief, the Ran says. And between Rashi and the Ran, I actually think the Ran is more of a pragmatist. You see, you have to see the problems of the world in order to hope that they will change. You need to confront the world in front of you that is not yet redeemed in order to have hope that there will be a redemption. If you don't know what's wrong, you can't focus on fixing it. Rav Kook makes a critical point about the nature of this kind of hope. He points out that the word the Talmud uses for hope is tzipita leYeshua, from the root tzipiya, to watch or to see, not tikva, not what we would traditionally translate as hope. What Rav Kook is calling our attention to is that the heavenly court is less interested in our mindset and more interested in our actions. Hope is a verb, not just a state of being for the Talmud. Rav Kook teaches that the role of the tzofeh is to be a watch person, to watch and to warn people of what's coming, to agitate them to bring about change, to bring redemption. Thus, he says, it is our responsibility to be mindful of every event on earth, because through them salvation can spring forth. It feels hypocritical to tell you that you need to invest your hope in the problems of the world. You need to invest your attention in changing the world. When I look at everything in the world that feels broken right now, I can't say that hope is the first feeling that comes to mind. Systemic racism has finally been brought to the fore. I see a public discourse that privileges vitriol and hatred. I see a pandemic that has killed nearly 200,000 Americans and sickened millions more. I see a democracy that is teetering on the edge of destruction. These things do not make me feel hopeful. They make me feel terrified and angry. 2020 has not felt like a hopeful year. It's felt like a nightmare. And I toggle between wanting to protest, wanting to get out there, and wanting to just pull the blanket over my head, surround myself with bowls of popcorn, and watch New Girl until the world ends. Despair, hopelessness, these are natural responses to feeling like we're in the middle of a doomsday scenario. But in the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes coming into a valley full of dry bones. Will these bones ever rise again? God asks the prophet. I don't know, only you do, Ezekiel wisely responds. So God commands Ezekiel to prophesy to these dry bones that they will once again be covered with flesh and filled with the breath of life. And just as Ezekiel is speaking to these bones, in this nightmarish valley of death, the bones come alive and God's breath fills them. But even after these bones have been brought back to life, a true miracle of God, they can't shake their despair. Our bones are dried up, the revived corpses say. Avda tikvatenu nigzarnu lanu. Our hope is gone. We are doomed. If these bones, brought back to life by the creator and sustainer of life, can't feel hope, how are we expected to? Yet Hebrew poet Naphtali Imber refutes Ezekiel's claim. Writing in 1878 in Galicia in Eastern Europe, not a good time and place to be a Jew, Naphtali Imber says, Od lo avda tikvatenu. You might have heard his poem before. We have not yet lost our ability to hope. How? How could Imber look at 2,000 years of persecution and destruction? How could he be living in a bad time to be a Jew, in a bad place to be a Jew, and come to the conclusion that we still have hope? It's not a rhetorical question. I think that Naphtali Imber was using Rav Kook's definition of hope, of being a watch person, as Kook describes, of surveilling the surrounding landscape to report to those who can't see it about the current state of affairs. A watch person must necessarily be in the moment, but they also must be alert to the possibility of change in any coming moment. One of my teachers in rabbinical school, Rabbi David Hoffman, hears Rav Kook asking us, did you look at your reality see its flaws, and take responsibility for them? And I think many of us can honestly say, yes. Feeling despair means we're paying attention. It's the first step in hope, to keep our eyes open to what's happening around us. We look out at the valley of death around us and we see the potential for life. Hope is our protest against fear and hatred, against violence and division. It's our insistence that we believe in miracles, that our hope is indeed hard to kill. Moving past the data points of the world is not easy, which is why on Yom Hadin we will be asked, Tzipita leYeshua, did we watch out for the coming of a better time? Were we committed to goodness? Did we help others see what we see that will bring about a change? The high holidays give us the opportunity to reflect on how things are and how we want them to be, in our personal lives and in the world. And reflecting on what is not right can paradoxically give us hope. Because if we can see that things can change for the worse, we need to believe they can also change for the better. We see that the world can change, that the status quo is not fixed. It's fluid, it's changeable. Committing to changing the world is a big ask, but I believe that we have the strength and the tools to do so. We make little commitments all the time, to eat better, to be more active, to give ourselves rest when we need it. So what if we committed to hope the way that we commit to Whole30 or a new workout plan? We would have to commit to making it a fixed part of our life the way that Naftali Imber describes. And then we would need to constantly be on the lookout for how to make our hope fit into the reality of every day, as Rav Kook asks of us. Dennis and Hagar, Rav Kook and Naftali Imber, they all teach us two important lessons. One, that there's always a way, even if it's as small as a sandwich, to bring about a better world. And that should give us hope. But also, hope is a verb. It requires us to be open to the brokenness of the world in each and every moment. Hope requires us to be resilient, so that we don't get stuck in the belief that because we did something bad, we are bad, or because the world has evil, it is going to be that way forever. Today, the day the world is born again, commit with me. Though despair may close my eyes, I will allow them to be reopened. I will keep watch. I will engage in the struggles of the present moment, and I will be ready to bring about change when the opportunity comes. I have not yet lost my ability to hope. Shana Tova.
It's been a long, dark night. I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I can see a brand new day dawning. And I've been looking for the sunshine, 'cause I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out just fine. Everything's gonna be alright. That's been all wrong. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's been a long taste of freedom and those clinging vines had me bound. Well, I don't need 'em. Ooh, I've been like a captured eagle. You know, an eagle's born to fly. Ooh, now that I've won my freedom, like an eagle, I am eager for the sky. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. 'Cause I can see the light. I can see the light of the morning. See the light of a brand new day. The light of a brand new day. The light of a I can see the light. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomchecha me'ushar deracheha darchei Noah v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kekedem.
The shofar blast is, for many of us, the moment we actually arrive at Rosh Hashanah. It calls us to attention. And in that blast, in that sound, are the echoes of everyone who has ever done this before for thousands of generations of Jews across the globe in this moment, calling out year after year, each generation building on the call of previous generations for all of us to grow and evolve and change with the sound of the shofar. And this is not like an abstract, flowery idea. For us, this is very real. And so many of you may remember about 8 years ago, we were contacted by the board president of a synagogue in Chicago, Sha'arei Tikva B'nai Zion, which in its heyday had a sanctuary on the northwest side with 1,300 seats that was standing room only on the high holidays. And by the time they contacted me, the synagogue was down to 24 members who dutifully came on Shabbat, but they were struggling to keep the doors of the synagogue open. And they decided that the future of their synagogue was actually bound up in the future of the wider Chicago Jewish community. And so they looked around to see what looked like the future of the Chicago Jewish community. And they gave me a call. And I will be forever grateful for that call. So in an act of true generosity and vision, they split up their remaining assets among a few spiritual communities in Chicago, including Mishkan. And we were at the time barely 2 years old, inherited the Torahs that we read from every single week, and prayer books and taluses, and some awesome people who began coming to Mishkan, including the person I'm introducing right now, Corinne Smith, and her family. So you may recognize Corinne and her family sitting up front and center on the bima on the high holidays every single year since 2013, when the community started to come. You may recognize them dancing their way through Simchat Torah, or maybe you were in the room this past Simchat Torah when Corinne stood up on a chair and started to share some of her story and some of her Torah. And the truth was, Simchat Torah, she didn't have a good microphone. People in the room were talking and dancing, and I don't actually think that people heard her story. And so I said to her, we're going to put you in front of a bigger audience next time. And here we are, and it's the high holidays, and Corinne every single year blows shofar with passion and precision and love. And so there's no more perfect person to share with us right now what this moment is about and what the shofar is calling you toward and calling all of us toward. Over to you, Corinne.
Hi, Shana Tova. My name is Corinne Smith, for those of you who don't know me. This year I was asked to give a bit of reflection on one of the most favorite parts of Rosh Hashanah services. This year, we will hear one of the most important blasts of the shofar, and for some of us, it will be one of the most important ones of our lifetime. We are facing so much, not just as a Jewish people, but as a human race, to things that cause us so much fear and uncertainty. Between the pandemic, social and racial divides, there is so much chaos that we find ourselves looking every which way for answers and understanding, for something that we can hold on to as we try to navigate the world that was challenging before its current state. Out of these uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, and situations comes the sharp sound, that sound that turns your head and focuses your attention to that one location. It's not just your head, it's all our heads. As the shofar blower, we are gifted and charged to call God's people. My journey as a caller began when I was 5 years old. It was after Rosh Hashanah services on the steps of B'nai Zion that, with much encouragement from my mama, I tapped Sherwin, the man who would become my mentor. After a bit of instruction, there was much joy and excitement as the first note came blaring out of that horn. Every year thereafter, I would rush to find Sherwin on the steps of the shul so I may have my chance to make my note sound stronger. As time passed, I became more proficient until it was my time to be called to the bima to blow for services. Sherwin explained to me our job and its level of importance. We are here to call the people and taught that each blast that is blown is here to pierce your heart, your soul, as to wake up the people, as to call them to reflect, to listen, to prepare, because God is calling you. As we begin our new year and start our new journey into the Yom Kippur holiday, we prepare ourselves and our spirits for atonement. We reflect on the tasks in our lives that we have been given to fulfill. We are reminded of what God asks us for, to have faith in Him, and to look for Him for guidance and solace, especially during times when you have none. When we are called to a task, we often find the obstacle to us not completing it due to fear and lack of trust in both yourself and God. Whether it's work, love, responsibilities, being complicit, or not ignoring the world around you, we usually stop and give a million reasons why we can't pick up God's call. With our fears and distrust in one hand and our excuses in the other, we fight tooth and nail not to hear, not to step up to our specific call. God tells us to have faith in Him. He shows us time and time again that He will have our backs even when we fail at our tasks we've been called for, just as He did Moses and the Israelites. I'm not here to remind you about your call that you did not pick up. I'm here to remind you to have faith and push forward, especially in these most uncertain and most volatile times. To have faith in God and to have faith in yourself, even when you can't see the end result, even when you know the task you've been called for to do is hard and will take every fiber in your body to complete. That is when we turn to God, when we have nothing left to give, and we ask Him for strength, as He has asked us to have faith in Him and in ourselves. Connect your spirit to His and have faith in His guidance. Shana Tova.
Tekiah. Shavarim Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shavarim Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shavarim Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shevarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shevarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shevarim. Tekiah.
Tekiah.
Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Trua. Tekiah Gedolah. So we now transition from the shofar service back into Musaf, which is, for all intents and purposes, kind of the greatest hits of Rosh Hashanah. But before we go there, before we hit all of that high singing and reflective spiritual depth of the liturgy that we will get to, I want to invite you to take the space to take another personal Amidah. Think about what Sarah Hurwitz suggested about how to do this. Think about what Corinne said, and open yourself up to the reflective space that you need to be in right now, that you wouldn't give yourself if it weren't Rosh Hashanah and you weren't taking this time, that like you have cordoned off specifically for right now, and actually use this time to think, to reflect, to write. And we will come back in a few moments after you've had some more time to feel how things are settling inside of you and what seems to be bubbling up from within that you may want to express.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מיסוד חכמים ונבונים ומלמדת מבינים הבטחה פי ותפילה ותחנונים לחלות ולחנן פני מלך מלא רחמים, אדוני האדונים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, בספר החיים למען אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מוריד אתה מחכה חיים בחסד,
לחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, לחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
Hi everybody. As you can see from my appearance, it's been a pretty hard year for me. I'm probably going to speak with less energy and less cogently than I otherwise would, and I thank you in advance for bearing with me. Okay, so we're about to read this prayer that's really dramatic and really important, and one that I've always had a hard time connecting to. The prayer claims, on Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who shall live and who shall die, who by fire and who by water, who by sword and who by wild beast, etc. You probably recognize it. It's always been hard for me to find meaning in this prayer because I just don't connect to its philosophy. It seems to me to be suggesting that our fate is predetermined. I don't believe it. It suggests to me that God is watching us, waiting for us to screw up so he can punish us. I just don't believe that. So last year, as usual, I didn't connect to the prayer, despite the fact that, as it turned out, my life was about to drastically change. In December, I was diagnosed with advanced stage ovarian metastatic cancer. Despite the fact that I was only 52 years old, lived healthily, and had even just had a normal pelvic exam a few months earlier. Well, like most people who are relatively young and relatively healthy, I was shocked to get this diagnosis. I know for a lot of people when they get a cancer diagnosis or something similar, they rethink their lives. They rethink their values and what's important to them and realize they've been wasting their time, etc., etc. I didn't have those thoughts. When I got my diagnosis and I was in the hospital bed, I had two thoughts. One, thank God I've had as much time as I've had. And two, thank God I've lived my values. That's it. Despite the fact that I've made more than my fair share of mistakes in my life, and my husband, who is filming me right now, is smiling because he would agree with me about that. Despite that, I felt content with the life that I've led. And it's not because there's something special about me, it's just because all those sort of meditations on regret and life's purpose that some people do when they get a cancer diagnosis, I had already done several decades earlier because of earlier brushes with death. In my first year of marriage, my husband almost died. And after almost losing my son several times before he was even born. In my first year of motherhood, my son almost died. These brushes with their death shook me to my core. They were like a dress rehearsal for death. And like any dress rehearsal, those of you in theater and music know, what do? You take notes, you make changes. And that's what I did. I started living my life with an understanding that my time and my energy, my very life, were limited and could end at any time. I started to spend less time building my career and thinking about building material wealth, and spent, did I get that right? Less time, and spent more time focused on my relationships and on connecting people with love. I started having, if I'm being honest, less acceptance of people's hurtful behavior, but also a lot more forgiveness and compassion. And I made other changes in my life. And these changes brought sacrifices. I compromised on my ideal career and on my dream job. Relationships with some loved ones were strained because they couldn't accept who I was or respect the changes that I had made. But when I was in the hospital and I got my diagnosis, I didn't for 1 second think about the sacrifices that I had made, or think with regret about those compromises that I had made to live my values. I was only grateful that I'd had a chance to live my values. And now I'm lost, I have to look at my notes. Thank you for bearing with me. Back to the prayer. Okay. When reflecting on my experience with cancer and on the contentment that I was able to feel only because I'd had an earlier brush with death, it dawned on me that I've been reading this prayer wrong all these years. You could chalk it up to another mistake. Maybe this prayer is not meant to be a threat about what will happen to us if we don't live just right. Maybe instead it is meant to be an imagined brush with death so that we can refocus and appreciate our lives. What would happen if we read this prayer as if we were in the hospital getting a diagnosis? You have cancer. You have been burnt by fire. You have been attacked by a wild beast. You have been pierced by a sword. You have a potentially life-ending diagnosis. How do you feel? What comes to your mind? Do you feel contentment with the choices that you've made, the trade-offs that you've made in life to live your values? Or do you feel like, wait a minute, I didn't get the job that I so wanted. I never took that trip to Paris. I didn't write the novel. I didn't go to my kid's soccer game. Or maybe I wasted so much time at my kids' soccer games. Or I wasted time feeling guilty about living my life or trying to live someone else's purpose. What do you think when you get that diagnosis? Let's face it, there's no dress rehearsal for life, unfortunately. This is all we get. But maybe if we read this prayer as if it's a dress rehearsal of death, we can take notes, we can make changes, we can refocus and reimagine our lives and live with our values as only we can, cherishing our time, so that when the time comes for it to end, we might want more time. I know I do. But at least we can also be at peace. Thank you. Shana Tova.
ונתן תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא ואיום. ובו תינשא מלכותך, ויכון חסד כיסך, ותשב עליו באמת. אמת כי אתה הוא דיין ומוכיח ויודע ועד, וחותם וחוסר, וחותם וסופר ומונה. ותזכור כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות מלאה, יקרא וחותם יד כל אדם בו. You bring to mind all that is forgotten. You open up the book in which all is recorded, and it tells you everything that we've done, for the book is written in each one of our own hand. ובשופר גדול יתקע, ובקול דממה, דקה יישמע.
בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. מי ואש ומי ומים, מי וחרב ומי וחיה, מי ורעב ומי וצמא, מי ורעש ומי ומגפה, מי וחניקה ומי וסקילה. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. מי ינוח ומי ינוח, מי ישקיט ומי יטורף, מי ישלב ומי יתייסר, מי יעני ומי יעשיר, מי יושפל ומי ירום. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו.
Join us.
בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. ותשובה
ותשובה
ותפילה
ותפילה
Tzedakah, Uteshuvah, Utefillah, Utzedakah, Uteshuvah, Utefillah, Utzedakah, Uteshuvah, Mahavirin et Hagizera. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Meloch kol haaretz kevodo, Meloch kol haaretz kevodo, Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai Mimkomo, Adonai Mimkomo, Baruch haaretz Adonai Mimkomo, Baruch haaretz Adonai Mimkomo.
Good Yontif. You know, I have a head on my shoulder that wants to control the world, and this pandemic has been such a challenge for it. I wonder if I should let the exterminators into my house. I wonder if I'm going to ever hug my grandkids again. I worry about what happens if the dishwasher breaks. And at this moment in the service, something happens that lets this tea kettle that is about to boil settle down. And we go flat on the ground. And every year that I've done this, something really significant happens inside me. So I'd like to take you through my process. And it's first just getting onto the ground. So coming down onto knees and hands, and you can stay here or you can straighten right out. And I already feel differently. My body, the weight of my body on the floor. I'm breathing and I can feel my belly moving into the floor. And I take a breath into my heart. And I'm feeling its heartbeat. And I can feel myself shifting and feeling grateful for being released from my head, for letting go of all that chatter and feeling instead being in my body. And then I begin to notice that I'm a small part of a much bigger piece, a world in which we're together in this community of Mishkan and in the world. And I can feel grateful here. For all of that. And then when I feel settled and I'm connected through love, I take another breath and then I come on back up. And I stand here feeling different, feeling more connected. I can feel my feet on the ground, and that feeling is stronger than the tea kettle. And the tea kettle has settled down quite a bit. I wish the same for you. Thank you.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol latet gdula leyotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye ha'aratzot velo samanu כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם. And we face east and we bow. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים.
And this is a posture of acceptance and of acknowledging that we can't control everything despite our best efforts. For many of us, this is a very uncomfortable posture, both physically and emotionally, to assume. And at this moment during the service, that's what we're asked to step into because it's part of the truth of our lives. If now that you're down here, it's actually rather comforting and you don't want to get up right away, so stay here as long as you need to. And if you're ready to stand up, you can join me. Lifnei Melech Malachi Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
V'yetayu kol avdecha
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha
V'yivarchu shem kevodecha
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha
V'yagidu va'im tzidkecha
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha V'yitnu lecha keter melucha V'yitnu lecha keter melucha V'yitnu lecha keter melucha
V'romemucha bikalam
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha
V'yishmehu rechokim ve'avo
V'yitnu lecha keter melucha keter melucha
V'yitnu lecha 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 keter melucha
life and blessing and peace and good livelihood. May we be remembered and sealed by you, we, all of your people, the house of Israel, and all people for a good life and for peace. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה ניזכר וניכתב לפניך אנחנו בכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. Shana Tova. Thank you.
It's really hot.
All right, yeah. We have a little break, a 10-minute break. Beautiful.
We are at the place in our service now where we take the kind of reflection and ruminating that we've done about the themes of the high holidays, which include themes of how we live and how we die. And we approach Mourner's Kaddish. You know, we do this prayer at the end of every Jewish prayer service, and it's important to lift up the names of the people we're remembering. That's sort of just part of how we live, is living with the memory of all of the people who have influenced us, who we love, you know, and holding up their names, saying their names, remembering them, and remembering them in community, just like Rabbi Dina mentioned last night, and somehow knowing through who other people have mentioned, you know, who is important to them, and expanding our own circle of awareness of all of the influences of people that make us who we are. So we do that all the time. But especially right now, especially in the midst of a holiday that is so much about reflecting on our lives and also how we want to be remembered. So this is not an abstract moment. Many of you have lost someone this year, someone dear to you, someone who drove you crazy, you know, a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, a child, a friend, a coworker. And Kaddish is the opportunity to lift up their name and remember them and invite other people to remember them. You know, even if I didn't know them, but to say their name and affirm that they mattered to you and that all of us matter to someone. So I want to ask you to go ahead and put the names of the people you're thinking about as we go into Kaddish this time into the chat. And for everyone else who's not writing, or if you are writing once you're done, to actually read out loud the names that you see cascading down the screen. Maybe you don't know them, but know that they mattered to someone here, somebody in this room who's observing this service. And somehow with all of us in the different places we are reading the chat at the different paces we're reading it, I think all of those names will be said out loud. And that is an incredibly meaningful way to keep the memories of all of those people alive. May their memories be blessings.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrei chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'agala uvizman kariv v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehi
shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam lo me'amaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kdusha le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata v'miran v'alma v'yimru. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Amen.
Y'all, we have just been through something together. I kind of can't believe we did it. I can't tell you the number of human hours that went into creating these services, and I am so incredibly grateful and impressed by the Mishkan staff, the davening team, the production crew that came out, that set up the microphones and the cameras and that stayed with us through a downpour, through a power outage, through tree trimmers coming with chainsaws and starting to chainsaw right across the street while we were filming, through mosquitoes in the middle of the night and thousands of cicadas threatening to sort of derail all of those filming days, but instead so much of the beautiful music and prayer being captured in the way that it was. I'm grateful to our friends at C3, Norm Laventman and Sam Lembeck and Josh Jaden and Mishkan's own Danny Alpert for all of your help in creating this experience, this online experience that we've all been watching and that has been lifting us up and connecting us to the deeper meaning of the holidays and to a deeper sense of maybe what we're meant to do this year. If you're in Chicago, I invite you to join us anywhere in the city at any one of our pop-up shofar blasts later this afternoon, moving into a self-directed tashlich experience. And you can just check the schedule to see what's happening where and what you need to know. Okay, on a serious note, the next 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are called the Aseret Yamei Tshuva, the 10 days of tshuva, repentance, turning. This has been quite a year, as we have discussed, and there may have been a few moments where, alongside your incredible resilience and helpfulness and strength, there may have been a few moments where you maybe said some things to someone that you might have said a little bit differently had you not been anxious or stressed or afraid or on Zoom or on Twitter or Facebook, if you hadn't been distracted or feeling hungry or lonely or unhappy, or any of the very good reasons why we sometimes say things and do things that we later regret and that we feel badly about but don't exactly know how to apologize for. These days are great days to make those phone calls. And during these 10 days, I also every year say to you, the community, if there is anything I have done to upset or hurt you this past year that we haven't spoken about, my guess is I don't know that I've done that thing and that I won't know unless you tell me. And the truth is, that's true for everybody you're holding a grudge against this year. The Torah tells us not to carry grudges in our hearts and not to let grudges corrode and weigh down our hearts, but rather to talk to people. to give them the opportunity to apologize and to make it right. This is how tikkun atzmi, self-improvement, adds up to tikkun olam, to actually moving the needle, not just on yourself, but for society, for the world. So this is hard work. This is soul work. This is heart work. And I look forward to hearing about how it's going from you. I look forward to being with you again on Yom Kippur. And in the meantime, I just want to wish you a Shana Tova Umetuka, a good and a sweet new year, a healthy, safe, blessed new year for you, for everyone you love, for all people. May you be written and sealed in the book of life and health and peace and joy and prosperity and generosity in the year to come. King Hiratzon, may it be so. Shana Tova, everybody. And Shabbat Shalom.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru,